Hello, puppies and kittens. I am speaking with an Indian named Rakshith, who says that they have issues in India where atheists are being attacked, apparently by militant Hindus. So, Rakshith, what have you got to tell us?
Hi Aaron, it's been a great joy, great pleasure to come back to your channel live. So, uh, in India, right, it's not that atheists cannot talk. The problem here in India is you can say yourself atheist, but you cannot criticize the religions. And if you do criticize, there is a law, blasphemy law, which actually punishes you for hurting the sentiments. That we have Article 295 here. So that is the real core issue here in our country. And uh, there are so many of these things like superstition, and any person who is just randomly even believing in general religion, but if he just criticizes superstition, you will be attacked and killed. So we have Indian rationalist Narendra Dabholkar, who was killed in 2013. We have Gauri Lankesh, who used to criticize superstition. She was killed. We had Govind Pansare, who promoted the idea that we need to have a scientific temperament. He was killed a few years back. So, like this, the incidents have happened, and there has been no justice yet. There has been no culprits punished yet in these cases. Yeah.
So, I've only been to India once for a week or so. I went to a World Atheist Convention in Vijayawada, where they have an atheist center. So, and when they have their own block of apartments, their own hospital, their own museum, all of that. And so I would have had the impression that it was perfectly safe to be an atheist in India. Although while I was there, I remember a group of Hindus attacked a Muslim in his own home, drug him out in the yard, and killed him because they thought he was eating beef. It turned out later that he was eating chicken, but they had already killed him. And what I was told at the time was that there was no way to criminalize the mob because they were religiously motivated. Is that true?
Absolutely, absolutely. This is a very common occurrence in India. And unfortunately, nobody asks questions on this, or even there is any criticism. It has become just so much common here. And you won't ask questions about it, you cannot criticize it. And if you do criticize it, the government and the political machinery actually supports that mob. That's the issue here.
Hmm. Okay, so you mentioned some names that we're not going to be familiar with. Do you have any background on any of these people or any other background to help flesh this out? Since
Yeah.
here,
Narendra Dabholkar, I can give one background. He founded a organization called uh, Andhashraddha Nirmulan Samiti. Okay. And he was a doctor, and his whole life goal was debunking this superstitious idea on exorcism and about existence of spirits, and in the name of witchcraft being done. So he was always on debunking those sort of things. He was assassinated cold blooded in 2013. He was killed, actually. And the culprits are still free and they have not been punished yet.
and of course they're not even going to be arrested, right?
Yeah. I mean, even if they're arrested, some suspects have been arrested, but there has been no proper trial and punishment yet. And then another case, this was happened recently. A person who was actually a guru, a yoga guru and a Baba, who renounced everything, he suddenly turned that there is no meaning to religious ideas or spirituality. He turned out to be atheist. He now doesn't live in India, he lives in Germany. So I'll give one example here. Let
Gotcha.
me share. Yeah, so his name is Balendu Goswami. You can just type Balendu and just check in Google.
Okay. Is there a
So
is there a law that you know or that you can point to that people can look up for how how that you have a legal precedent of excuses that they don't investigate, or they don't criminalize religiously motivated crimes? Because some people, when I've told that story before, some people have tried to contest me on
Yeah,
it.
you have Article 295A. It's almost a blasphemy law.
Article 295.
A, Indian Constitution.
Okay.
So it
Is that
actually
two?
criminalizes.
Okay,
Yeah.
is that number 295A?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. I'd be happy to look that up. Okay, so what else can you tell us, or what do you suggest?
So here in India, the biggest problem is like one can easily claim that they're atheists. There are so-called Hindu atheists who will say, "I'm Hindu, but I'm atheist." But you will never see them criticizing. You cannot criticize for some reason. And when you do criticize, and when you do portray things which are perceived as unorthodox or not in line with the conservative belief of the religion, you could be taken down by Article 295A through the law. And this law needs to be banished, actually, in my opinion. This cannot
So
exist, but it exists.
that is your blasphemy law.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. That's a thing that I find novel. I mean, that people in the West get very upset when you try to censor their speech at all for any reason, even when it's unwarranted hate speech, like yelling fire in a movie theater or whatever. But they get very, very particular if you want to if you criticize their position, then you have much the same as what we're hearing from from everywhere that has a blasphemy law. Oh no, I can criticize you all I want to, but there's gonna be a law that you can't criticize me, or you can't censor me. And so it's surprising for me to see when there is a blasphemy law, what that's all about. The very people who would call me a snowflake, that I'm a rare, and that they think I should be easily offended. These are the people who are actually the most, that I've always noticed, were the most easily offended, readily offended at the slightest insult,
Yep,
perceived or
yep, yep.
implied. Yeah,
And
and so
it's actually a double standard.
and
Yes.
I'm thinking about, yes, exactly. So I'm thinking about how frail must your position be that you have to pass a law where you can't criticize something so weak and indefensible.
I mean, that's horrible. And we also have a law called Article 26 and Article 25, which gives guarantee to religious, you know, groups for all sorts of protection and the necessities. So means state can come into action whenever it wants to protect the religious interests. So again, this thing only goes to show one thing, that it's a messed up thing. You have these laws, and one can say atheist, but they cannot criticize. You might have gone to the international meeting in Vijayawada. Have you? They call themselves atheists, but could they openly call out the gods, religion, theology, and the uh, priesthood? Could they call out openly? No.
Well,
Yeah, they could say about evolution, science, here and there, humanism, secularism, but could they really call out the stuff? Spade is spade. No.
well, the way I remember it is the atheist convention that I went to had speakers from all over the world. I mean, there were a few Indians there. I don't remember what each of their arguments were. I know that
Yeah.
there's some things that would be called blasphemy, but it was coming from like a Norwegian, um, what it was, a parliamentarian, or there were people like in political offices in different countries and so forth. I mean, so these people were obviously protected. I mean, nobody was going to attack me for being as public as I am and being American, I would guess, just like there was all these other people from
Yeah.
Europe or wherever. Uh, we seemed to be under a shield. We're only there a day or two, and I know a lot of these things happen to be, they have to lie in wait for the right moment to attack somebody, that kind of thing. I'm in the country for a week, and I'm kind of all over the place. So I was only in
Mhm.
Vijayawada for like 2 3 days. It would have been,
Yeah,
and for after that event, I didn't hang around a long time. So
yeah.
it's hard to say. So these people come in and they do their speeches. Nobody knows what we're going to say before we say it, and nobody finds out what we said until it goes public, and that's after we've left.
So
Okay.
this is the latest news that happened recently. Atheist was attacked by the Hindu groups for criticizing their gods. It hurt their sentiments, apparently.
Yeah,
So
apparently.
here,
And
yeah,
blasphemy here is not a crime; it's a right.
yeah, and it should be that way. I mean, what do you consider blasphemy really? It's a matter of perception. You have a
Well,
series
yeah,
of statement. Yeah,
anything that disrespects, that criticizes, or that casts doubt on a particular belief.
yeah, and we have one person from South. He is called Naresh Bairi. He is actually an atheist, and he said something about Indian gods related to Shiva, Vishnu, and Ayyappa, some local deity. And police were arresting him. The Hindutva group, the religious outfit, had so much audacity that they could get into the police van and start hitting that person, literally in front of police.
Did I see video of this? Did you share video of this? There's like
No,
five cops
no,
grabbing one guy and they're beating him with billy clubs as they're trying to load him into a small
yeah,
truck.
yeah, yeah. And cop is just seeing, yeah. And two, three people are just coming and slapping him there,
Yeah.
right, left, and center. So, this is the situation. Uh, then we had some atheist groups who wanted to have a conference, and they were told the Hindu sentiments will get hurt. It's Ram Navami, it's a Hindu festival, so we cannot allow you.
Let's
And
finish this up. What else? What what is the important thing you want to get out of this conversation?
so one of the most important thing is that there is a perception in the West that Hinduism is liberal, Hindu society is very good, everything is cool. You have the Hindutva nationalist coming out and saying, atheism is allowed in Hinduism, but question is it really allowed? If it is so, why are there attacks happening? I
Yeah,
mean,
what we see in this country is, I'm sorry to say, the only examples that anybody sees in the United States for what Hinduism is generally the Krishnas. That's it, the Bhakti,
yeah,
and then
yeah,
that's all we see. And so even that is restricted to what we used to see, like in the '60s and '70s. We're not so much anymore. So everything, the common perception of Americans that Americans have of Hindus is that they're pacifists, vegetarians,
yeah.
harmless hippies, basically. So going to India and finding militant Hindus was a big surprise.
Militant Hindus have been in existence something like 1920s. Guess what? 1920s. So there
Well,
is a militant organization that works from the 1925 RSS, Rashtriya Swayam Sevak Sangh. Okay, and you can just Google CIA lists VHP and Bajrang Dal as a militant outfits. VHP means Vishwa Hindu Parishad, means World Hindu Conference, and Bajrang Dal is its youth wing.
yeah,
So they're militant.
if you wouldn't mind throwing a link that is what you could consider your best
Yeah,
example,
yeah,
rather
yeah,
than telling people to Google it, to
yeah,
show
yeah,
what you've got. And I'll put that in the description too. Not now, just when you have an opportunity after this. All
yeah.
right, but
And
then
in the beginning of the conversation, I took name of some people: Gauri Lankesh, Narendra Dabolkar, Govind Pansare, and M.M. Kalburgi. These people were not atheists per se. I mean, they didn't claim themselves as atheists. They just claimed themselves as secular and mostly rationalist. In the sense, they were skeptic. They didn't outrightly reject religion, but what they did was they criticized the superstition. the common superstition on like exorcism, spirits, witchcraft, astrology, and things related to quackery. They just called out on quackery and they were killed, assassinated for just calling out on that. So it's not
Well,
even like, yeah,
yeah, I know Sanal Edamaruku, who famously
yeah,
exposed one of the Catholic miracles that was where people were like drinking the blood that was on the feet of the Virgin Mary statue, and then it turned out that this wasn't
yeah,
blood; that this was actually water from a backed up toilet that was running out through the seams and then getting on the feet of the statue. And so, when Sanal had exposed that what this actually is, rather
yeah,
than thank him for the sake of the public health and good, they sought to kill him. So he had to
yeah,
escape from this Catholic cathedral in India. And this obviously this wasn't Hindus in this case, but still, it's the case that there's a mob of people who wish to kill him because they want to believe something that they
yeah.
know is not true, that is dangerous to believe, but they want to believe it anyway, and they're going to kill that guy for telling them the truth.
Yeah, yeah,
So he had to
exactly.
escape the country. He
Yep,
lives in Europe now
yeah, I
because
know
that's the
that.
only thing he can do.
Currently, he's living in Finland, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know that for sure.
yeah.
And another thing that to highlight, this is about non-atheist. 2016 there was atheist whose name I've just told, Balendu Goswami. Now he
Hmm.
was an ascetic who had renounced everything in his life almost. He was an ascetic, and he actually was kind of very fanatic early on, but after doing everything in his life, he just came to certain conclusion that religion doesn't necessarily is good for society.
Yeah.
Belief system, spirituality doesn't help. And he decided to have a conference, Pan India Atheist Conference. This is back in 2016. The Hindutva group, the right wing group, the Muslim and the Hindu both protested, and so much so that the government had to tell him, please get out of this country, you might get assassinated. And he was given the visa, and now he is living in Germany. So, that's what I said. You can probably call yourself atheist, just atheist, but you can't criticize religion. You cannot criticize Hindu gods, Hindu way of life, Hindu way of thinking, the spirituality, those sort of things. If you criticize, the moral probability is that a mob will go behind you and they can assassinate you, as I have said in certain cases. Uh, yeah, these
With
things do happen,
impunity.
and yeah, with impunity. And Naresh Bari, I just told one example recently, last year's, okay. He criticized about the Hindu gods, and of course, the news link says derogatory remark, but I'm not sure what was derogatory in that. But people got so much, offended. Right in front of police, they're beating him, and police does nothing virtually. So it's like, and I told about Article 295A of Indian Constitution. It's a blasphemy law. So any statement can be interpreted as hurting religious sentiments with deliberation. Just about any statement on religion, and you could be punished under that law, Article 295A.
Yeah, I looked it
Again,
up. I looked it up and putting a quote of it in the description.
yeah, and
It's just as you say.
actually this is very much contrary to the Article 51A of H, the fundamental duty, which says it's the duty of every Indian citizen to promote scientific temperament, humanism, and reform. It kind of contradicts with that thing in the Indian Constitution. So, either you remove Article 51AH and assert that it's state religion here, or if you're promoting scientific temperament, then what is the use of Article 295A, which is blasphemy? There is no use. That should be
Yeah,
removed.
yeah, and the description that I'm reading says that it's a cognizable, non-bailable, non-compoundable offense that legal experts consider to be controversial.
Yep, that's the issue here. Imagine if this article was not there. Should the Indian public be so naive, especially the Hindutva group, that you make any statement and should that be interpreted as anti-India, anti-Hindu, and hurting the Hindu sentiments? What really constitutes hurting the Hindu sentiments? I
Yeah.
mean,
It's beginning to
anything could
sound
be
like
interpreted.
nationalism.
Yeah, that's exactly what is happening in current India, actually. And I'm as atheist. If I talk about Hindu God, Hinduism, or Hindus' way of cultural aspect, and I criticize and I say that this is so nonsense, and I can do it in front of the world, and you people are not accepting, even acknowledging that issue, then, and on top of it, you give me tag that I'm anti-India, anti-Hindu, anti this, anti that. I mean nationalism over the cake of it. So this is like a very dangerous situation, and it's a you might have heard about the McCarthyism of US. It's something like that virtually. In
Yeah.
the sense, in McCarthy era, you could not criticize Christianity, otherwise you are anti-American and pro-Soviet, something like that. That's how it goes here as well. So if I criticize, I could be categorized into communist or something as Muslim or a Christian. I might be interpreted as that. They have no response. Any further criticism, they go behind you. And Gauri Lankesh, who I just told about, lady who fought against the superstition, she only criticized the superstition. She was not even an atheist. She didn't even claim herself that way. She was just calling out superstition, and the person who assassinated her hasn't been punished yet. And he openly said that she hurt my religious sentiment. It went against our dharma. It is against our dharma. Hence, to protect the dharma or the religious ideology or whatever, I just killed her.
So
He
you
admits that,
commit
but he has not
murder.
been punished.
You commit murder to protect karma.
Dharma,
I
Dharma.
apparently don't know what karma. I've always thought I knew what
Okay,
karma
yeah, I
was,
mean,
but
I get
that
that.
that
Yeah.
that is a huge contradiction to my understanding.
Karma is action, dharma is like a certain set of rules, regulations, and ideas. And
No,
it
it was
pertains,
it's the balance of
yeah,
good and evil as I understood it, that you you bring about bad thing, you cause bad action, and another way of phrasing it is what we have a colloquialism here in this country where what goes around comes around. You do good, good things will come back to you. You do bad, bad things will come back to you. That's kind of a simple analysis of karma from the Western perspective. And
that
so
is
when you go out
karma,
and
but
kill somebody, how is that protecting karma?
I mean dharma, dharma,
Oh, dharma.
dharma, yeah,
Dharma, not karma. I'm sorry. Oh, yeah,
yeah,
huge
yeah, yeah,
difference. My apologies.
yeah. Yeah, so karma is referring to certain actions, and it's an absurd ideology. I say that what is karma is nothing but giving an imaginary cause to the actual cause. I mean, something is happening, you are just attributing an imaginary cause to it rather than the actual cause of it. Okay,
Exactly.
that's,
And then
yeah,
to promote skepticism in such a case is in some cases literally no more than saying that you shouldn't say things are true until or unless you can show the truth of it, which I say all the time, because that's the
yeah,
way religious people are here. They make an empty, unsupported, baseless assertion of speculation, and they just declare that to be the truth, as if it's something we could look up and verify in a moment. No, that's your opinion. That's not a fact. But they
yep,
don't make the difference. They think their opinion is a fact, and that consequently all they think that all facts are merely opinions. So if you
yeah.
express, no, there's a way of telling whether it's a fact or whether it's an opinion. So you have these certain criteria. And this is all this person is doing when they're arguing for skepticism. Not even arguing for secularism, just arguing for skepticism, and gets attacked for that, for basically saying, don't lie.
Yeah, so one of my proposal has been that we need to have this Article 295 abrogated. This has to be removed significantly, and certain modification to Article 26, which guarantees that state may not intervene and there is some sort of autonomy and freedom, when it comes to religious criticism and skepticism. Uh, Also, one of the things that, as I said, you recently heard the news that government of India removed Article 370. They abrogated it in the parliament for Jammu and Kashmir. When they can do that, why can't they do with Article 295A, which
Yeah.
actually violates the human rights? In a way, it's a violation of human rights. It goes contradictory to freedom of speech. I mean, why shouldn't I have the freedom to criticize or even blaspheme the Hindu gods, goddesses? Why don't I have the criticism to blaspheme about religion of Islam, Muhammad, Christianity, or whatever? Why shouldn't that be the case? If we say we
Blasphemy
are the
should be.
largest democracy, yeah,
Yep. And blasphemy can't be a crime. Blasphemy must be a right.
yeah, definitely, and it's human right, in my opinion. One of the fundamental things. You can't
Along with
promote,
free thought, freedom of thought.
yeah, freedom of thought. In India, there is something called as freedom of speech, but you probably can say freedom after speech does not exist. I mean, you can say thing, but there is no guarantee that your life will be protected. After saying, you could be attacked, and state will probably support, the perpetrator of the crime rather than standing with the victim. So that's an unfortunate truth. Freedom after truth is also there something of an issue here, that you can say something and no guarantee that your life will be protected. I mean, imagine uh, you have lakhs and crores of people believing in mythologies, fictions. They have that freedom. They can express, go anywhere. They can shout their slogans, religious thing. We don't, as a skeptic, as a free thinker, come out and say, hey, it's all bullshit. And for saying that, I could be killed, but the other person who's perpetrating is not being punished. I gave an example of Gauri Lankesh. She admits that he killed that lady for protecting the religious ideal, but state government or the court hasn't punished him yet. So he's still in jail, but he is not yet punished, just under trial. That's it. So question is, when is the verdict going to come and get that perpetrators of criminal crimes are punished? So that's an issue here. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you for sharing that, and I'll be happy to include
So
your link.
one of the other things that I do recommend is we need certain amount of judicial reforms, justices which are more practical and more timely. So those things also should be looked at, in my opinion, in future ahead. Yeah.
All right. Well, Rakshith, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay. And I have
I'm
a
going
dog
to
now that is outside that is pounding on my back door to be let back in because I can't have peace. I can't have professionalism in my studio because I have a dog.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, but I would definitely continue to have collaborate with you, and definitely I would like to do more lives with you. We can have
Well,
joint lives as well. That would
uh,
make fun. Yeah.
it might be fun, but I'm increasingly busy. So I have fewer and fewer opportunities that I can do this. I have
Okay.
things
Okay.
scheduled up. I often have things scheduled back to back while also trying to write. Shut up! While trying to write a speech, I've got two. I've got a rally speech. I've got a convention speech. They both have
Yeah.
to be written by the end of this month, and I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be writing a book that's supposed to be done by the end of this year, which I haven't even begun yet. So I
Wow.
have, and my mother's in the hospital, and I've spent every day visiting her in the hospital. So there's time gone too. So I haven't
Wow.
been
I
productive.
hope I wish her best of luck
Yeah.
and
But
fast recovery. Yeah.
yeah, thank you. I mean, I can
Definitely.
do another live, but I can't do any other after that. So pick
Yeah,
carefully what you want, because I can only do this one more time. Okay?
yeah, yeah, sure.
Okay.